and welcome to this episode of My Prescott Lifestyles. Today we have Hank Hampton from Belterra.
Yep, good to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, did I say your last name right?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, thanks, Hank. And of course, Kristen Olson, our co-host.
Hi.
And so what's our topic, Kirsten?
Well, Hank is the president of the Prescott Area Commercial Group and has been so for the last year.
Yes.
This is your last year in term.
Correct, yep.
And so I asked Hank to come on and basically tell us what is the Prescott Area Commercial market doing, because we're seeing so many changes in the residential.
Right.
And I know that they're totally two different markets.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
So what's it doing?
So, yeah, I
Well,
mean,
what has it done and where do we look like we're going?
well, so basically, when you look at 2022 and you look at the amount of volume that has happened, that number is reduced drastically from 2021.
Wow.
And so I think what you're seeing is something even that's been in the residential market, which is first half of the year, January through May, it was crazy. It was busy. There was a lot of stuff going on, commercial and residential. But the commercial inventory, at least in our area, was even more constrained than the residential inventory.
Okay, why is that?
I to be honest, I don't totally know. I think there's a lot of factors. Our area in general does not have a ton of commercial inventory.
Oh.
And so I think that these businesses that were starting up, there was obviously a huge boom at the latter half of 2020. 2021 was great for people. And so you saw those listings that were sitting just disappear.
So they all decided to buy in COVID.
Yes, yeah. I mean, but that is, well, you had a lot of sellers, even on the commercial side, that went, holy cow, my building went from being worth 400 to 550, and they went, you know what, I got some good leases in place, I'm going to sell my building.
Right.
Well, and let me back you up. So when you talk commercial, are you talking like a duplex, or
Oh,
are you actually talking like a
Great question. Yeah. So retail, medical,
Oh.
office. You could, of course, count multifamily in there if you wanted to. And multifamily, if you want to go down that route, has been even more difficult than standard regular commercial. There's very, very limited multifamily in our area in particular. And when COVID happened and the constraints that came after that, multifamily disappeared. There's very few. So you had people in bidding wars over multifamily properties.
still?
Not now, it's loosened up a little bit, but there's still not a ton available. And I don't have an active number right now. But like, for instance, in 2022 sales, 102 sales of multifamily in 2022. And I wish I had the 2021 number. I didn't write it down. I apologize. But, judging by all the other numbers, my guess is that's down from the previous year.
So give us an idea. So on commercial in 2021, how many transactions? did we have?
Yes. So 121 sales in 2021. Okay.
Okay.
So you go to 2022 and there was almost half as much, 64.
Oh, wow.
So
Now,
huge drop off.
Is that due to just there's no inventory? There's
Well,
nothing out there to sell?
Inventory has come up.
Okay.
Not a ton, but it's come up a little bit. But the problem is interest rates have obviously, as we all know, have come up quite a bit. And somebody who is looking at a payment where the leases might cover that building,
Right.
the leases don't cover that building anymore, and the owner is going to be going, well, if I buy this at 6.5% or 7.5%, let's say my payment was supposed to be $3,000 a month. Well, now it's $5,000.
Yeah, that happened a lot when all the rates went up.
Yeah, and you see that in residential rentals, you see that in commercial rentals. And so the investors have all, especially the second half of 2022, they all went, we're good for now. We're going to kind of wait and see how this all pans out. You did have some people paying in cash still, but a lot of people who were getting loans on, 3% interest, that's gone.
So we've seen it drop by 50%.
Yeah.
So the number of sales dropped 50%, but the
volume is still pretty high. Yeah. So the volume was 70 million in 2022. And in 2021, it was 108 million. So
It's close.
It's very close. So
Yeah.
property values are up, sales prices are up, which is obviously, it's one of those things where you look at people who initially were overpricing in, say, 2020 and 2021 because that grab was still there, the cash grab was still there. That's definitely come down. But when you look at residential, when you look at commercial, it's down at a reasonable level. It's still really high year over year. And then you go the year, 2020, 2021, you go back to 2018 and you look at the chart of property value, property
Just
sales
crazy.
prices, and it keeps going up. So even though it's slowed down, it's still
Prices are
going
still
up.
up.
Yeah, prices are still up.
You also deal with commercial leases.
Yes, yeah.
And since we don't have a lot of inventory, even though it's increasing, does that make it harder to find commercial property to lease
It
as
depends
a new
what-
business coming into town?
It depends what you're looking for.
Okay.
So like industrial space is pretty much very few. I mean, there's just not much. But if you're looking for, say, like medical or office, you've got a little bit more of a selection. It's still not great. It's better than it was, though.
Okay.
And for a frame of reference, if you go to the beginning of the year, so I think it was in February of 22, I was crunching the numbers on active inventory in February of 22. And at that time, there was roughly, I want to say it was about 275 for all of PAR. So all the Quad City area.
going from Black Canyon City to like Ashford.
Yeah. So everywhere, I mean, huge area. We had, and that's residential, that's commercial, that's
everything.
That's everything.
Including leasing.
Not including leasing, but
Okay.
just active sales inventory
Okay.
was like 275. And so you cut, which is crazy. I mean, that's low.
Right.
And you cut to now. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever seen it that low before?
No.
I mean, it was like a little bit scary. But then you cut to now, and if you add all the numbers together, you're probably at about maybe 1,200.
Right.
So it's increased
Oh.
a ton.
Okay.
But that's still actually low for our area. We
Okay.
should be at a much higher, maybe we should be
But
1,800.
also, truth be told, seasonally, because
Yes,
we're in
yeah,
January,
yeah.
we usually see in residential portion,
Yeah,
it drop because,
It slows.
yeah.
yeah, the
Seasonal.
holidays.
People slow.
And I don't know if commercial does the same.
I definitely think it probably is not as impacted because businesses, whether they're deciding, hey, because it's going to be 3 months or 6 months before they're up and running anyway, depending
Right.
on what it is. So they're making that move, getting ready to go. It's impacted a little bit, but at the same time, there's not a lot for them to choose from. So it's just
We
it's
hear
tricky.
that a lot with manufacturing companies wanting to relocate here. They love the area, they love the weather, the highway infrastructure, but
Right.
there's no buildings.
No,
And they don't want to build something and to occupy it 3 years down the road.
that's the trick.
They want to set up shop and
Yeah.
start working.
Well, and I think what's going to be really interesting to kind of talk about 2023 is there is a number of projects around the Quad City area right now, especially that are industrial, that are going to be completed, let's say, end of first quarter 23.
Really?
You've got some spaces, you got quite a bit of space out in Prescott Valley that's industrial that's going to be coming to completion. And I do think that will give a little bit of a shift, and it's going to be interesting to see what that does. I don't really have an expectation either way because the inventory is already so limited in the industrial needs. So I just think it might end up just fulfilling the needs of people that are
Isn't
out
that
there.
interesting, that Prescott Valley seems to be the area where they're most open to growth?
Yes, yeah. Well,
Isn't that funny?
well, and you got to think too. Prescott is landlocked by the National
Right.
Forest. I mean, the only way we can go is up, and I don't know. Judging by how things are, I don't think people are really into the idea of buildings
No.
going up more.
No.
So it's one of those things where you kind of gotta take what they give.
Take what's available.
Yeah, and Prescott Valley, I think, has been very aggressive in a good way as far as they're working with builders, they're working with developers, they're trying to, because they know there's a need.
Right.
And they're doing whatever they can to try and facilitate the construction of that stuff.
Right.
So it'll be interesting like mid-year to see where we're at because you're talking about a pretty significant number of units on top of which there's some apartments that are going to be completed in downtown Prescott Valley. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. A lot of units are going to be available there. There's going to be there's all these things that are in the
I
pipeline.
was just driving through Prescott Valley today, and you see all the land work being
Yeah.
done, all the big earth movers
Oh,
in
yeah.
there.
There's a lot of stuff. You got Glassford Hill. I think there's I don't know an exact number, but there's quite a few projects going on over there. Almost all that is commercial,
Wow.
with the exception of those apartments, which those aren't off Glassford Hill. They're kind of over by the downtown entertainment
Right.
district.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's a ton of units going in over there. So yeah, it's very interesting because I think when we get to mid-year, there's going to be a dynamic shift, and I just don't know what that's
gonna look
yeah,
like.
what it's going to look like is going to be very interesting.
So if a company was thinking about relocating and they need commercial space, what do they do?
I think the first thing they have to do is they have to establish their use. So if it's manufacturing, there's only certain areas of Prescott or Prescott Valley where that's going to be possible. There's areas of Chino Valley where that's going to be possible. If it's business or medical or restaurant or something like that, they've got a little bit more flexibility, but they've got to get in contact with a local person, and I know a lot of these companies, they like to use firms, and that's fine. But the truth is, those firms are reaching out to people here to find.
They're actually going to call you
Yes,
because
exactly.
you're part of the commercial group.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I think if you're looking at that, you want to call somebody that lives in town,
Okay.
and then that way they can help you figure out what area is best suited for you. And there's so many hoops to jump through. You want somebody who's familiar with the city, whether it's Prescott, Chino, Prescott Valley. You want somebody who knows, okay, we need to call this department, this, I mean,
zoning and
zoning,
impact.
How to
all
get it
this
done.
stuff. Yeah.
Really.
I mean, there's so many steps, you
Right.
know. So it just depends what they're looking for, but there's a lot of different hoops to jump through. I'll put it that way.
Okay, and I thought it used to be is that if residential was doing really good, commercial would slow down and vice versa.
Yeah, so I think that what you can say, and I've been repeating this across all types of real estate, is the past 2 years have not been normal.
I agree.
Or the past 2.5 really, because I think, everything dropped off mid-year last year. I think you have to throw the past couple of years just out the window, because if you go back to 2021 and 2020, I'm sure you guys both remember that during the winter, it didn't slow down
No.
at all. It was still just as crazy.
COVID happened and everybody bought a house.
Right. And so I think that in commercial was constrained, residential was constrained, everybody, it was this,
Yeah.
And so I think you have to look back and say, you know what, those couple of years, that was not a normal situation. And I feel like what's happening right now in our area, it being slow right now, people kind of taking a little bit of a breath during the winter, that's how it was prior to COVID.
Correct.
And so that, to me, this is like, okay, we're going back to normal now, which
Oh,
I
good.
think is a good, I mean, again, this is just my opinion, but I do feel like that's honestly the best thing for most people is
Do
for
you think it'll readjust?
what do you mean?
Well, I see more inventory.
I imagine we'll see more inventory, because I think that those apartments in Prescott Valley, there's a big enough number that I think that's going to have an impact. There's a huge number of units going in out on 169 and 69 in Dewey.
Oh, I see those.
Yeah, there's going to be, I can't remember the number, but I think it's a few hundred.
Right.
So that's going to have an impact, and I think that will make inventory possibly come up. I think until interest rates, get back into, say, like maybe 4 or 5. And you got to remember too, commercial rates are higher than residential rates.
Okay.
So it's just, there's so much, I don't know. I'm just
There's
kind
a
of
lot
letting it
expectation
play.
going
Yeah,
on
yeah.
what's
It's
gonna
just,
happen.
I don't know. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. I think the bottom line though is, as close to the chaos of things going as quickly as they can, I think that kind of going away is a really good thing, especially for buyers. A lot of people probably compromised on what they would have liked to do, or what they would have looked for. And I was reading an article, this is probably back in October or November of 22, where they were talking about a pretty large percentage of people who bought during 2020 and 2021 felt like they really compromised on what they were looking for.
Oh.
Because there was nothing, and
Right.
people thought, oh man, I just made so much money selling this property. Whether they're doing a 1031, like, oh, I'm going to cash in on this.
Right. Move
Well,
my investments.
I can't move my investments to anything because there's nothing available.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of people who just felt pressure. And so I think as it kind of loosens up a little bit, that's a good thing for everybody. Maybe inventory will come back up. When we were going up and up and up, and I was like, all right, we're almost at 1,000. This is great. And then it just went, no, we're going to stay right here at about 1,000. And it hasn't really gone up.
It hasn't moved very much.
It hasn't gone down a lot, which is good, but it hasn't. I kept thinking, oh, we're going to hit 11, 12. No,
No, it just kind of
Yeah,
stopped.
and I think interest rates are going to have a big impact too. I've seen so many conflicting articles. I've seen one that said Q3 22 they're going to come back down. Then I saw one that said Q2 23. I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody
So
knows.
we'll see what happens, but it is going to be interesting, and I think that this year will be the first year where it kind of everybody feels like a reset. Like we're going to kind of get back to normal life, I think, a little bit. I mean,
We'll see what normal looks like.
knock on wood there, but we'll see. So it's been a really interesting couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah,
So,
sure.
What would you tell somebody looking to get some commercial property for investment or to open a business? Hold off? Pull the trigger now?
Well, here's the thing. I think never feel panic to do something, but if it is the right decision for you, it's the right decision for you. So, if you want to buy an investment property, okay,
You can make the numbers work.
you can make the numbers work, and also we may stay at say 6%
Right.
until the end of this year. Are you gonna, if you're looking to make an investment, do you want to delay another year
Right.
on making that investment?
And who knows what 12 months is going to look like?
We don't know. Yeah, it could be.
It could go up.
It could be
Right.
10%.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly hope that's not the case, and I think there's some indicators that hopefully point we're going to go the opposite direction. But the reality is that could happen.
Okay.
So I wouldn't necessarily. And again, everybody's situation is different too. So who knows? But I think you kind of have to do the research, and you have to say, okay, we feel comfortable, and if the rent doesn't cover X amount, we can float that $200 difference or whatever it is. And then for businesses, it just depends on their need. I would say, like, if they're looking to lease space, there's still not a ton of space available. And even if it's specialized, if it's, like I said, industrial, if it's restaurant,
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have a heck of a time. So I'd get working on it now.
For like 6 months.
Yeah,
out.
for 6 months out, because you're going to have to go through, Prescott Valley. You're going to have to get your permits, and you're going to have to go to code enforcement and fire, and you got to do a pack and all these things where you're like, okay, now we're 3 months down the road and we still haven't even done anything.
So as we wrap it up, there's one question that comes to mind, and that is, what are we missing here in town? What business are we missing? What service industry are we missing?
Yeah.
Who would you tell come to town that we need right now?
This is what I will say. On the residential side of things that I deal with, the biggest complaints I get from people who are coming, especially from big cities, which I think is part of the draw of why you come here, because it's not a big city. However, restaurants seems to be the number one thing.
Yeah.
Really good restaurants.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. It's got to be really good.
It's got to be really good.
And which I mean, some people think McDonald's is really good. And,
I don't go there. Don't
and then
judge.
some people
no
want,
judgments.
like
No
a
judge.
P.F. Chang's or something.
Yeah.
But with that being said, restaurants is number one.
Good.
But the other thing I hear a lot about, and I'm biased because I have kids, is that there's not enough stuff for kids here.
Family entertainment.
Yeah, family entertainment.
But you grew up here. There was never been enough
There
stuff
was
for kids
there was
here.
never anything. I mean, now when my kids say there's nothing to do here, I'm like, you guys have no idea
No.
what I dealt with.
No, get on your bike.
Which
Go
makes me
outside.
sound old, but
Yeah.
but I will tell you, there's some really cool stuff that's coming. You got Eastspire Sports out at the mall,
Yes.
Oh, nice.
which is a really cool facility. There's also
Is that the trampoline?
there's
that just opened.
That just opened where
Yeah.
Out in the mall where World Market used
Yes.
to be, and that is really cool too. And then we have Process Driven Sports Academy down on 6th Street in that industrial park down there,
Uh-huh.
and that's a really cool place too, because it's they've got baseball stuff in there. So we're getting these little
Niches.
little bits.
niche stuff.
But those are like the two biggest complaints I get from
Oh,
people,
wow.
because we got a Costco, we've got a Trader Joe's,
Right.
Whole Foods is the other one that people complain about all the time. But
See, the one I hear about is they need a grocery store in Chino, in the backside of
Yes,
Prescott Valley.
yeah.
They want a grocery store really, really bad. The restaurants I hear about all the time.
yeah. Well, in the grocery store, I think we've had so many people, going back all the way back to the commercial group here.
Yeah.
We've had people from Prescott Valley, representatives from the municipality come and speak to the group, and every time, they go, well, we've talked to this chain or this chain, and there's just not enough insert whatever thing here.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm sure they'll get something
They'll
out
meet
there.
the need. They'll
Yeah.
meet their wants, and we'll actually get the numbers that they want.
Exactly, but
Yeah, maybe after the apartment's open.
yeah. Well, actually, between that and the thing on the corner of 169, you never know.
No,
Actually,
you never know.
So how do people get a hold of you if they want to give you a call and maybe get some more information?
Thanks. So I'm at Bellaterra Realty here in Prescott. You can go to our website. My website is hankhampton.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. If you Google my name, you can find pretty easily.
We'll find out.
Yeah, it's not too hard, so I'm around.
All right. Well, thanks.
Hey,
Thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yep.
And thanks for watching this episode. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day.